We don't have a setup with heat mats and lights and all that sort of stuff to get our seedlings going here, but they do need that extra heat in our cool climate to get them started at the very end of winter. So today what I'm going to show you is how we use our fire to get our seedlings started. And we also germinate them here, we protect them from the cold outside at the very start of the season. And we also use some tubs to do that. So I'm going to take you along with our spring planting at the very end of winter today and show you how we do that. Good morning, it's Rachel here from Homesteading Australia, and today is the day that I'm planting seeds. It's the very last weekend of, well actually it's Friday today because I've taken the day off work so that I can get my spring planting done, but it's the very last kind of 3-day weekend for me to get my seeds in at the end of winter, which is usually when we try and plant those things that need a longer season here, because we live in the Dandenong Ranges in Vic. It is a bit of a cooler area. It's also kind of quite southern in terms of latitudes as well. So it is a place where you don't get those really extended days that you get with sunshine in some of those places that are a little bit further towards the equator. So we do need to extend our season a little bit. And one of the ways that I do that is by trying to plant our long season seeds now at this very, very last week of winter. Now, I don't always get them in at that time, but that is what we tend to aim for. Now, I'm going to bring you in a little bit closer and I'll show you the sorts of things that we tend to plant that need that longer season. And yeah, we'll choose together the seeds that we're going to plant together today. Okay, let me get my cuppa out of the way and we'll open these up together. Now, I haven't actually even really started pulling out or sorting any of these, so this is what we're going to do together right now. In terms of seeds though, we've got a lot of seeds that I carried over from last year. We buy seeds from lots of different places. There's also some that we've saved ourselves. That's mainly the ones we have in the good old chocolate tin, which is always a great place to store some seeds, especially when you get a nice pretty one like that. Yeah, so I've got a real mixture of things to work through to pick out the ones that we're going to plant together. I did get a few new ones this year as well, because last year when we did that trip to, I think it was the Diggers Club garden in last year's spring planting video, there was a few things when we went shopping at that time that were missing and I did want to plant. I didn't want to miss out on things this year, so what I did is a bit of an online order. Those have already been delivered. I did chuck them in the box here as well. So yeah, there is a few fresh seeds in here as well that we'll plant. Now, the sorts of things that I'm looking for are those really long season things that need heat to get going as well. So we're thinking about things like our capsicums, our eggplant, tomatoes. That's all the sorts of ones I'll be looking for. There are a lot of other things that I'm going to want to grow this season too. Things like beans, and they definitely need a little bit of warmth to get going as well, but I'm not going to plant them in here. I prefer to direct sow those sorts of things. And in fact, I've got a few seeds like these ones here that we saved from our own last year. So those ones we're not dealing with today. Still a little bit too early and a little bit too cold outside just to get those going. We're still getting a few days that are under 0 up here in the ranges. So it's just, yeah, a little bit risky. Although I have actually started some, this is a weird angle, isn't it? But I want to talk to you guys. I have started some seeds in our veggie pod. We had some incredible warm weather. It was probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago now. And I couldn't help myself. We were preparing beds and stuff outside. And I did actually direct sow a few things in our veggie pod. Most things have actually popped up in there, and yeah, I think the fact that it's got the cover on top of it has actually helped that out in terms of it being able to germinate and being protected from when we get hail and really bad frost and all that sort of stuff as well. All right, so eggplant, that is definitely one of the ones we want to plant today. I also want to do capsicums, and we've got a couple of different ones here. Well, actually they're the same variety. They're the California Wonder. But I've got seeds from a couple of different places. There's Diggers Club ones and there's also Eden Seeds ones. So we'll probably put in a couple of each. So it's good to have a bit of diversity in the garden. Things like collies and carrots. We're not going to do any of that today. Ooh, more eggplant. Now, the one that we did last year was absolutely incredible. And I can't quite remember which variety I grew, whether it was the Black Beauty or the Market Supreme. So we might even just put in a couple of different ones. Chili. I don't think I managed to overwinter any of the cayennes, so we might put in some cayennes as well. Now, cucumber, I definitely want to do, but yeah, I wasn't particularly excited with that variety of cucumber last year. And yeah, I definitely don't want to do those ones again. They actually felt a little bit, I don't know, they were kind of weedy. They were the ones we grew in the Mr. Stacky hydroponic planter. I don't even think we really ate many of those. Like, we grabbed a few to snack as you were going by, but yeah, they are definitely not my favourite, those ones. What else have we got in here? Leeks, no. Mustard, no. Onions, no. Parsley, definitely not. We've got plenty of that going outside. Peas, not the right time of year. We'll get to the stuff we're going to plant in a minute. Rock melon. Do I? Yeah, let's put in a couple of rock melon, just for something a little bit different. Family likes eating rock melon. We do struggle a bit with the melons here because, again, it's just that short season. So even starting them by the fire, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Now, this is all like spinach and silver beet. Definitely don't need any of that started inside. We'll definitely be starting some outside, but yeah, it's just not the time yet. But now we're starting to get into tomatoes. So we've got the Tomato Legend. Didn't mind growing those last year. The green and black, they were really interesting ones last year. So we might put in a couple of those. Amish paste, that is always a great one for preserving. Although, do I have any left in there? Ugh, no. Silly me, put the seed packet in with nothing in it. So we're not doing that one. Although I think I saved some seeds from those last year. Watermelon and zucchini. Oh, absolutely want to do some zucchini. And maybe we'll do a couple of watermelon as well as the rock melon. And we don't need to put in cherry tomatoes because honestly they just pop up everywhere in our garden naturally. And they're always the best flavoured ones. They came in years ago with some mulch. And then they've kind of been spread around our garden because they were so delicious and they just self-seed now. All right, so this lot here, this is actually what was hiding at the back of the things that I bought online. Now, there is some different tomatoes I want to try this year. So there's the Leicester. They looked kind of interesting. And I liked the fact with that one, it says they were bred in Tasmania, so suited to cold growing conditions. That sounds like something that would do quite well in our garden, which is why I grabbed that new variety to try this year. Pumpkins, some more Jarradales there. Kale, we don't need to put in yet. Corn, well, corn is going to go straight into the garden, but it is just way too cold to put that in at the moment, so we're not going to do that one quite yet either. But these cucumbers, the Lebanese mini munches. These are the ones I couldn't get last year when we went to the Diggers Club garden and bought all those seeds together. This year, I managed to get them online, so I'm pretty excited to grow those again because, as I said, I wasn't particularly happy with the cucumbers that we did last year. And another variety of capsicum, this one is the paprika. And I haven't done paprika before. I saw these in the magazine and I thought I would like to give these a go to see if we can actually get enough to dry out and do some homemade paprika powder for ourselves. That sounds pretty cool to me, so I do want to do those as well. Now let's have a quick look in here. This one, yellow chili. Now, this is something that I actually got during a visit to the Belgrave food garden. And they had a plant there that was actually overwintering really well. And I grabbed some seeds. I had a bit of a chat with the people there. They don't know what the variety is specifically, but it tasted good. It was overwintering up here in the ranges. So I did get those seeds just to give it a crack. So we will put a couple of those in as well. So we're now into the one with a lot of our own seeds. So we've got some carrot seeds, got some cosmos, lettuce. We do have, that's a lot of our coriander. That'll get direct seeded later as well. I think in these though, I've got some of our tomatoes and also some chilies. So let's have a quick look here. That's tomato. Oh yeah, that's the little patio tomatoes. That's the one that we had in the hydroponics as well. They're really little ones. There is one that's just taken off all by itself in there though. So it's good to have some seeds in reserve, but I don't think we need to plant that today. Dahlias. This is some of our eggplant seeds. So I just put some of the seeds from one of the eggplants that was a nice big one in here. Let's plant some of our own ones that we've kept as well. Where did I put those eggplants? There we go. So we've got a few options for eggplants now. I'm not going to do the cosmos and jalapenos. I've actually still got quite a few going that overwintered really well in the greenhouse. Like they do quite well in the greenhouse over winter here. So I don't know that I need to plant any of those this year. Basil, absolutely want to do basil. Cannot forget the basil. So we collected our own seeds. Basil was really prolific in the hydroponics last year. Is there anything else? Pumpkins. I feel like I am missing pumpkin seeds. I am. We don't have any pumpkin seeds here yet to do our butternuts. And butternuts are an absolute staple. So hopefully... what's that? That's some of our seeds from the giant green pumpkin, the biggest we grew in 2022. Gonna love the notes you make for yourself. You know what? Let's try and grow some of those. I'm not sure if they'll still be any good. We're getting a few years on now, but the big green one, big Jim chilies. Oh no. Oh, actually, and there's some of our Korean chili seeds from the Korean chilies we grow, but a lot of those have overwintered really well. I'm so silly. I know exactly where those seeds are for the butternuts. That's them there. We had a butternut the other day, washed them off, chucked them in here to dry. I knew we had some seeds somewhere. All right, so we're going to plant those too. That's the assortment of seeds that we're going to focus on for today, but of course there'll be plenty more spring planting direct outside and also getting some in the greenhouse because there is certain things that can deal with a little bit more temperature variance, but these are the ones that are going to need a bit of heat to start. I've relocated down to the garden now, which is where we're going to start our seedlings. These containers here are what we use when we start our seeds by the fire inside. They're basically just a storage container, and I do always try and aim for ones that are fairly clear, like these ones here, because basically what I'm trying to do is create a little mini greenhouse. Also, because we're taking this inside, it creates a bit of an area that's quite contained. There's some humidity that can build up in there. I'm not getting dirt and I'm not getting water and stuff everywhere when I'm watering. So these are very, very handy to use. Now, the reason I've got some new ones is we actually broke the one that we were using last year. We were using it for, what were we using it for? It had a few purposes. We used it when we were doing the ducklings. We also used it for mixing some of the coir when we were setting up the hydroponic up on the deck. I think it was actually during that we broke it. But anyway, we needed to get some new ones. So we got some new ones the other day from Bunnings. The reason I like them to be clear though is because we use these inside with the warmth of the fire to get the seeds to germinate. But then it gets to a point where once they're germinated, they need sun. So the key at the start with your seeds is they need that boost of heat to germinate, but then they need the sun to grow. With these, what I can do is pick up the whole thing, take it outside, and particularly while they're nice and small, they can get the sunlight through this, and then over time I can start to take the lid off as well. It's just a bit of a kind of greenhouse where you can get a bit of that sunlight getting to your seeds. Yeah, nice and convenient to take it in and out. The other thing I should mention with these is that they are quite inexpensive. I think these ones here, they cost about $6. You can get ones that are really expensive, ones that are cheaper. You don't need anything fancy for this activity. So yeah, it's really just a container that you pick up, move around, and if you can get a clear one like this, that's going to definitely help you with a bit of sunlight getting in there as well. All right, so the next thing we need to do is just get some pots and yeah, we can start planting out. Now, I seem to end up with stashes of pots all over the place. One of the spots, particularly for a lot of the smaller ones that I like to use, is just here in the greenhouse. So we'll take these outside. And then I've also got a few in the potting shed. Pots wise, there is a few different ones that I like to use. Ones like this that are a little bit bigger and squat, I tend to find are quite good for things like the watermelons and zucchinis. So we'll pop a few of those in there in a minute. Things like tomatoes, I quite like these ones. So these are just secondhand ones. We did hundreds of native plants being planted out on this property when we moved in. We actually kept a lot of the pots, so a lot of these are just reuse from that sort of thing. In fact, I don't think I've bought any of these. These are all things that we've had seedlings and plants come in over the years, and we just keep reusing them. Ones like these are all quite good for things like eggplants and the like. Oh, the reason I like to use these ones for the likes of tomatoes is because they've got a bit of depth to them. Capsicums, that's another good one. I can fit lots of those in here when we lay it out. It'll be a lot clearer once I start doing that in a second. But they have a bit of size, and you probably notice that about all of these pots that we're using. They're not small pots. And that's because I don't really like having to transplant and then transplant and up pot things again. I like to just plant once and then plant it out into the garden. So that's why I use something with a little bit more size. Now, over the years, I have got a couple of these little trays as well, which are quite handy, particularly for that style of pot. It just allows them to get a little bit more stability standing up so they don't tip over all over the place. It also makes it a little bit easier when eventually I do pull this out of here and then pop it in the greenhouse. It means I can pick up all the pots at once instead of having to pick them all up one by one. All right, let's get them in. So that's all of our pots done across both of those containers. The next thing we've got to do is fill them up. Now this year we're going to use this seed and cutting mix. Now if I'm completely honest about it, we don't always use this stuff. We use a lot of different things. Sometimes we use stuff that we've produced here on the property, like through the compost and sifting. Sometimes it's bags of just normal potting mix that we've used. This year I'm using this one here. And I do tend to find with this kind of seed mix, I can bring you in, you can see it's quite fine. And it means that you don't get any of those really big particles that can stop tiny seedlings from growing. So it is quite handy if you're looking for an easy option. And yeah, I'm just going with ease this year. that's our pots all filled. And I still have a fair bit of soil left over. And that's handy because we still have quite a lot of spring planting to do. So this I'm going to pop in the greenhouse, and that I'm going to use for any of the seedlings that I start a little bit later in there. We're going to have to relocate under cover because it's starting to rain. I've relocated to a new spot underneath our fire pit area. Hopefully the really bad change doesn't come through before we finish this video, because there is some really gnarly weather coming later today. Winter is definitely reminding us it's not done yet. But what I've done is I've got out a few extra things as well now. I've got some little markers so that I can label things. I'm horrible at labeling, which is funny considering how many of these you actually see with labels on it. But yeah, I don't know. Somewhere along the way, over the season, through the planting, I always seem to lose those. I've also got my little planting tool. I love using this just to make the little holes in the soil. That's actually an old farming implement from my grandpa's farm. And yeah, he's no longer with us, but it's very nice to have that little memento from the farm. Yeah, and then we've got all of our seeds. Now, you've probably seen before, what I like to do is actually lay out my seeds just to get a bit of an idea on where I'm going to plant things before I start planting anything. Oh, there goes my seeds. Wind with the change. All right, cucumbers, recovery. Oh, I've got 2 more to fit. Capsicums, maybe there. And the chilies from that Belgrave food garden. Maybe I can get those in those 3. Am I happy with this? Yep, I reckon that's what we're going to go with. I'm going to have to start getting these in because that wind is starting to get intense. Woo! Oh shoot, with the wind I forgot the basil. I am going to have to reorganise a couple little things. In fact, I'm going to start moving everything down onto the ground here. That'll give us a little bit more protection. Alright, I've relayed everything out, and as I was doing so realised because that basil had ended up on the floor, I was a bit short on pots. So I filled this one now, and that's where our basil's going to be planted. Capsicums in here, paprika capsicums here, tomato, Lester Jones in that one, green and blacks and legends here, zucchini, tricolour there, chili long cayenne here, the yellow chilies from Belgrave Food Garden there. I am just going to do this one with the eggplants now, and I'll get the 3 different varieties in there, 2 in each of the cells. Cucumber, Lebanese mini muncher, a whole bunch of those because I want lots of those. 2 rock melon, 2 watermelons. Those ones there are our pumpkin seeds that we have from that big green pumpkin, unknown variety. Jarradales in here. And then this last one is going to be the seeds that we've recovered, which are our butternut ones. All right, that's the plan. Let's crack on with the planting. Tend to go with 2 seeds in these bigger ones, and that way if one doesn't germinate, it doesn't matter because I've got another one. But if they end up getting too big, realistically I only want 1 in each, so I can pull some out. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay with this wild wind that's starting to form around us. Oh goodness, I am going to have to move fairly quickly with this, and then I'll probably catch back up with you inside in a little bit more detail when we go to put this by the fire. Okay, that's our first one done. why it's a bit wild out there now. That rain still hasn't hit, but yeah, that wind is full on. All right, so what I'm going to do now is just position these near the fire. In fact, I'm going to spin these around a little bit because I tend to like it so the biggest surface area is actually facing towards the fire. And that's essentially what they're all looking like. I will pull, actually I won't pull that one out. I don't need to pull that out yet because that can sit on top and there is a little bit of clearance on top of those pots in there. But as soon as the ones underneath start popping up, I will actually pull those out. So with these, the lids do go on, and I tend to keep those on for the time being. It just does increase the humidity that's in there. And if there's ants or anything like that, which I did have one year in the soil, some ants came in, it just means they're kind of trapped in there as well. Yeah, so all I'll do every so often is toggle these around. I do like just to rotate them because you do end up with hotter spots on the fire side and cooler spots on the other side. Rotating them around seems to help with that. I did find one year where I wasn't really cottoned onto that. I was getting a lot of germination on this side closer to the fire quite quickly, but not so much on the other side. So that is a little bit of a tip if you give this a go. Cat's obviously inspecting my handiwork here. Something's new in his space. Yeah, so we'll rotate, keep an eye on it. In terms of keeping an eye on it, as soon as we start to see the little seedlings popping up in here, that is when I start thinking about putting it outside. I just take it out, pop them on the deck, nice and easy, and then bring them back in at the end of the day so that they can get that warmth of the fire at night and not get affected by any really cold sub-zero weather, which we do still sometimes have a couple of days of at this time of year. So yeah, that's a bit of a rundown on how we start our seeds by the fire at this time of year. If you're interested in seeing a little bit more detail right now in terms of progress and how effective this method is, maybe have a bit of a look at some of those videos that we shared last year. But of course, I'll give you some updates on how this year's go as well in our future video updates. So hopefully this method is helpful to you if you've got a fire but you don't have heat mats and lights and all that sort of stuff like us. And hopefully you enjoyed following along as we planted this year's seeds. As always, thanks so much for joining and catch you later.